What's up, guys? Brian Burke, BadassDating.com. The three pillars of leadership are awareness, control, thrust. Thrust pertains to you as an individual man being your best. And being your best also means being who you really are, and you'll see why in a minute. In 2007, I began working for Vin DiCarlo as a dating coach for men. And during this time, Vin asked me to write a book that would be the flagship product for our company and would introduce people to the concept of natural game. So one of the reasons why I wanted to work for Vin in the first place was he wrote an article called The Transition to Natural Game. The premise behind Natural Game was that it was about developing real confidence with women without gimmicks or manipulation. The best way to go about improving with women and people in general is to actually change your beliefs, and the way you do this is by changing your mindset now. It's a simple but brilliant idea, and I decided to base the book on it, and that book eventually became known as The Attraction Code. It was my last semester in college, and I was studying psychology. I was in the process of writing two really big papers. One was on the psychological constructs related to dominance and social status, and this was for a social psychology class. And the other paper was for a cognitive development class, and it was about self-control. I kept coming across the same concepts: internal locus of control, extroversion, neuroticism, field dependence, field independence, and need for social approval. I did find some really interesting papers that showed how a lot of these constructs were related. And these relationships painted a very clear picture of what made someone more dominant, how to have more control over yourself and your life. Someone with more social dominance doesn't worry too much what other people think of him. His main source of influence comes from himself. So he decides what goals he's moving towards, and he focuses only on that. Now, that doesn't mean that he's violent or that he's selfish. In fact, the opposite. A leader is the best term to use to describe this kind of person. That's the guy that women are most interested in. The starting point of leadership is to lead yourself. So at this time, I was also running coaching programs. My focus had shifted from trying to be more successful with women myself. It was now time to focus on my students and get results for them. And as a teacher, I became really interested in accelerating the learning process. So I was constantly experimenting with different methods to help guys internalize the concepts as rapidly as possible. Drawing on my own personal experience and the common experiences of my students, I decided to intertwine the story of Sam into the book. And I made the lessons that Sam learned run parallel to the theory that I was breaking down. Those lessons would be reinforced by the theory behind that lesson. So in the final version, Sam's name got changed to Patrick, and that's, if you've read the book, you know the story of Patrick. I guess Vin didn't like the name Sam, but he did a great job cleaning up the draft that I gave him and adding his own brilliant insights. And then, we had it edited and cleaned up, and I'm really proud of this book. And one cool thing the guys say is, dude, Patrick was me. Like, that was my story too. And I'm like, well, Patrick was me too. It was my story, And then we hug it out. So I wanted the Attraction Code to be a resource for guys to develop better beliefs about themselves. None of these beliefs are hard to agree with because they're true. There's been times in your life where you were leading. You are okay right now. There's nothing wrong with you. You're a work in progress. You are sexual. You were made by sex, and you have a sex drive. And the other belief, you are the change you seek. You're constantly growing. You're constantly changing. You're not the same person that you were yesterday or a year ago or 5 years ago. You change in the direction that you seek. In other words, what you pay attention to is what you become. If you really look at each belief, you can't argue with it. You can't say, oh, that's not true. They're all true, and they all are kind of the seeds for a really powerful self-perception. Now, the most powerful and fundamental belief I think anyone can have, it's also true, is that you are who you want to be. The man you want to be, the vision of yourself that you have in your mind, where did that come from? It came from you. It came from your soul, and that's who you really are. The vision of who you are in your mind came from somewhere. I decided the best way to accelerate the process of personal change, personal growth, was to get guys to become aware of the different levels of their being. Now, by consciously changing your intention, you set yourself on a new path. Another way to think about this is the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So where you're at now is 1 point. The man you want to be is the other point. You know, typically the way people change throughout their lives is this kind of meandering, unfocused path. It's like life happens to them and they just react to it. You want to set yourself on the track that's going to take you right where you want to go. So the next level is focus. You want to think as that man that you want to be. You want to try to think that way now and gradually develop new mental habits that are aligned with this new intention. So cognitively, what does that mean? How do you think? What are your thought processes? And that's where all those psychological constructs come into play. As you start thinking in different ways, you're going to try things and do things that you haven't done before, and you're going to initially have some discomfort there. And that's what state means. It's your emotional feeling in that context. What you show outwardly to the world, what the woman sees you do, is going to come out a little awkward, a little funny. You're not going to be congruent. And this is why that belief that you are okay right now is so important, because if you just accept that you're going to make mistakes and mistakes are the path towards success, you say something stupid or you're not successful, it's okay, you don't freak out. It's that freaking out and getting discouraged that's going to slow your progress down. So being okay with mistakes will actually accelerate your progress. So we have intention, focus, state, expression, and Vin dubbed this the 4 elements of personality, the 4EP model, and that's much better than having to say intention, focus, state, expression. And so this was the seed for what I now call thrust. There's several layers of meaning to the word thrust. It's a sexually charged word, where the reason why you're looking at her is because you're sexually aroused by her. Once you develop a deep comfort with your own sexuality, you'll see that not only is your desire good for the human race, I mean, if it weren't for men's sexual desires, we'd all be extinct, right? Your sexuality is also appreciated by women, as long as it's not hurtful. So in other words, it's okay to think with your dick sometimes, as long as you use this head too. Thrust is also a word that gives you a sense of power. The word is meant to energize you. When you're excited about what you're doing, when you're passionate about it, nothing can stop you. So you're thrusting forward and taking action. And that's why I say act leadership, ACT. Nothing happens until you act. It actually articulates better what's actually going on externally. You're not just expressing yourself, you're actually communicating directly with everyone all the time. You're never not messaging. When you can become aware of the messages that you're sending and also the messages that women are sending to you, now you're speaking on a different level. You're actually communicating on that more subtle, primal level. What turns me on is making my woman feel me and knowing that I'm affecting her with my passionate, loving, masculine essence. She feels my manhood physically and emotionally at her core. And my thrust into the world is the same. I want the world to feel my passion, my gifts, my love. It starts with making your intention and giving intention. This is the source of your power. And that's what thrust is really about, is making the world and making women feel your passion, feeling your love, feeling your masculine gift. Okay? So that wraps it up for thrust for now. Enjoy the articles and take care. Okay?